Welcome back to another episode of yours truly, Trisha. I have a very special guest with me today. Not only is Ravi a great friend of mine, you're also a musician,
Yep.
cancer survivor, the founder of a very successful Remax team, father, amazing son, husband.
Thanks for the flowers, Trisha. You know what? The feeling is mutual. I'm very thankful that you've invited me to be here today.
Well, you know what? I know you're a very busy man. And I asked you because I'm really, really inspired by your story. I was hoping you would share a little bit more on that.
Yeah, and
How
Trisha,
that shaped your perspective on life.
and for anybody watching this that feels like Trisha's an online avatar or personality, or further than that, she's one of the first people to pick up the phone when something she sees resonates, and that doesn't go unnoticed or underappreciated. And the feeling is mutual. I am inspired by a lot of the things that you do. I think being authentically yourself in a public space has its own challenges, and even more so as a mother and as a woman. So stepping into that and just sort of being mindful that the cat claws come out whenever you put yourself public.
Even through all the adversity, everything, COVID and all the things, even today, you have managed to always have a positive outlook on life. Like, I don't know how you do it.
Reference point is every day I wake up and I feel like I've won the lottery, right? I have nothing but joy, happiness, and gratitude as my perspective. And for anyone who might not be familiar with my story, at 24, I was, 24. I was about 108.
So it's like 2 years ago.
Yeah, so I was about 108 pounds, right? And we knew each other back then, and I had just gotten extremely sick, to the point where the ulcerative colitis I was dealing with, it was documented as one of the most aggressive cases in the history of the university health system in Canada.
Wow, I didn't know that.
Yeah, so the doctor said to me, Mr. Singh, I can count on. This is probably one of the most vivid memories that I have of my 20s. I'm in this room with Dr. Greenberg, Dr. Gordon Greenberg. He's, a very senior gastroenterologist at Mount Sinai. And he says verbatim, I remember this. He says, Mr. Singh, I could count on one hand the amount of people that I have diagnosed with ulcerative colitis that have been as aggressive as yours.
Wow.
It is unlikely that you will make it to your 40th birthday. And you're a certain candidate for colon cancer by the age of 35. I don't know. And I looked at him, and my mom and dad and Ange were there. And then he says a very magical word. I believe in these two words. He says, but. All right? But and yet are magical 3-letter words. And he says, but there's a highly invasive, extremely difficult 2-pronged surgery called the pelvic pouch procedure. And upon complete removal of your colon, we can potentially deem you cured. So Trish, my second tattoo is on my left bicep. It says November 2nd, 2006. And that's a constant reminder that, I have had my darkest days. So traffic, weather, difficult clients, financial problems, none of that holds as much weight. Like, I wake up and I am happy.
I know.
I wish more people could understand that. Yeah, there's 7 billion people on this world, and there's billions that would trade their place for the wrong Starbucks order. There's a book that everybody talks about, Man's Search for Meaning, Viktor Frankl. And there's another book written by a Holocaust survivor, and his 10 guiding points are, there's extreme power in gratitude and extreme power in perspective. And you have the right to wake up every day and choose to be happy. And for me, that's a superpower. Like, if people say, Ravi, he never seems angry. Don't get me wrong. Sometimes, the kids piss you off or whatever. But that's very short term, in between moments, right?
I was going to ask you, like, is there, a quote that you live by? I mean, you've noted a few things or words from people that have, stuck with you. And I can see, I think it's gratitude. And is there a way that you practice that daily? Like, not, do you write it down, or is it just something you wake up and you think it, you feel it? Like, how are you implementing that every single day?
So the first thing I would say is incredible mentorship, right? You have to find people in your life and models around you that give you sort of the position to accept, right? The second thing I would say is outside of mentorship, creating the right conditioning. So what I mean, like there's a saying that one of my mentors has, it says atmospheric conditioning. So spending time with the right people, sharing experiences that bring you into a positive place, that in itself is an exercise to achieve your own sense of happiness or greatness or whatever. But the really interesting thing that has happened to me this past year, and I'll just share with you. So I think we've talked about this. That colitis that I had in my 20s, now later on in my life, I'm dealing with another inflammatory issue. And now I'm learning to be a little bit more unapologetically myself.
I feel like you always have been.
Even more so though, Trish. Like I'm just very mindful that like you really only live once. And if something doesn't fit your space, it's okay. It's actually good for you and good for whomever else that you create these boundaries around yourself.
I do have to ask while you say it, because you're a very social, popular guy. Mm-hmm. So I want to know, like, did you lose a lot of friendships in that? Because I feel like how did you have a huge circle?
Yeah.
So like when you're talking boundaries and being around good people, like you have a lot of people. So how did you lose a lot of friendships?
Not necessarily. I haven't lost friendships, but if something doesn't serve me, it doesn't take priority in my space.
Okay.
Right? And that's interesting because it kind of goes against the original sort of guiding principle I have of give to receive, right? And I'm the first one to step in and say, hey, let me help with this. But now I'm mindful that that doesn't always have to be the case. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like there's sometimes when it's just like, you know what? It's okay to say no. It's okay to say later. It's okay to, not pick up the phone or be on someone else's time, because quite honestly, in my profession, everybody wants you 24/7, 365.
You pick up my phone calls.
Yeah, you know what? I pick up people's phone calls for sure, but I'm mindful that there's nothing wrong with saying, hey, I'm in a meeting. Can I call you at 2:30 or 3? Right? There's another thing that I think maybe your audience might find interesting. But right now, I think I mentioned this to you. Every year I pick a word for sort of a guiding principle to my year. And my birthday's at the end of the year. And last year, my word was basically service. Okay. Right? Yeah. And I'm very mindful that when you shed some layers to then, bloom into something a little different, that's something that I think is very special. And for me, like, as I mentioned, I'm going through these inflammatory challenges right now. I'm learning to just do a little more.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that also takes some programming and some sort of processing. What I mean by that is, I was really happy always to be boutique team, professionally, working exclusively with my database, slow and grow.
And what are you doing differently now?
Well, I've added more people to the team because I say to myself, why am I not willing to take what I have and, create more for more?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Right? And that's another guiding term, right? More for more is the whole idea that maybe you could actually take what you're doing and be of benefit to someone else, as opposed to saying, no, it's good right now. I don't want to change. Yeah. What I found, my secret is just empowering people.
Which I think coincides with last year's word of service.
Yes.
And then now this year being amplify, you're doing kind of both. They've kind of built upon each other, which is really nice.
Yeah. And you know what? I think life for me right now, like, do you do any goal setting exercises or anything like that? I've reached a level in my profession where I'm having a lot of fun, and the business is okay. It's profitable. The resources are there.
Yeah.
But now I'm not solving financial challenges or problems. I'm finding solutions to the experience of how do I want to grow, right? And you know what? The byproduct of that is we're looking at other things, other businesses, other ways to build a brand, other ways to strategically ally with other people, and it's fun, right? Like at the end of the day, life needs to be fun.
Yes.
Right?
Can I ask then, how do you juggle all that, still dealing with your inflammatory challenges right now? And do you have any, how have you shifted your lifestyle practices, and what are you doing to balance both?
Yeah,
Because that's not easy, I can imagine.
I will say nothing happens without a great household. And the unsung hero to anything, for me is my wife, right? She is literally a workaholic. And when it comes to our shift, I mean, the research that she puts into things is just phenomenal.
She's helped me a lot. I don't know if she told you, she's in my DMs, telling me about things, helping me with certain stuff. So
yeah, so
wonderful.
Ange is really, she's a doer. She's not a talker, and she was showing me just yesterday. There's this thing called grounding well. Have you heard of that? So a lot of people have this realization that there's just one disease.
Yeah.
And there's this Jamaican doctor, for example, who says there's just one disease. It's mucus. It's white blood cell. It's inflammation. How that transfers into arthritic pain or colitis or cholangitis or much worse things like cancer or Alzheimer's or heart disease. It's really just a look at the inflammatory response of your system. So grounding well is this idea, and this is based in...
I'm going to write this down.
Yeah, so it's based in Asian and Indian traditions.
Okay.
When you wake up in the morning in hotter climates, you usually barefoot step into the earth. And you can't do that necessarily, but to get rid of all the electrical toxins in your body, electricity, I guess, and to ground your body, grounding well is this blanket that you sleep on. And people have tested their inflammatory response after doing this. People have tested their overall change in their body, how they sleep, how they drink, how they poop, how they eat, how they, everything. And it's incredibly special. So, I mean, she's literally doing all this stuff all the time. She's baking, she's cooking,
She's also a part of your business.
Yeah, so Ange has a sister company, a staging company, and actually we're expanding that. Good. And that's I'm kind of dragging her through that process. She doesn't want to necessarily, but I'm at this point you have to, right? But I'll say the inflammatory disease that I have, and let me qualify that, the inflammatory disease that I've had and the inflammatory disease that I'm dealing with now is not treated through the medical system as a why do you have it? Yeah. It's treated as, now that you have this, what are we going to do?
A reactive response to...
So I have a great naturopath. She's actually Filipino as well. Her name's Joanne Mina. She's amazing. And I'm on a business journey now. And this is actually hot off the press. This is nobody even knows this. But
as seen on yours truly.
Yes, yours truly, Trisha, is breaking the news. So there's a very special company in King City. The chief visionary officer, CVO, is a client of mine, and we've collaborated on some stuff, and he's super successful, incredibly successful. He's developing hotels and apartment buildings. He's done it all with real estate. But in his own medical journey and the journey of his young son, he's not accepted any diagnosis or problem without a solution. And I'll tell you, Trish, I'm going to invite you up. It's called Heal House.
Heal House.
Yeah. And Heal House is a brand new business. And they look at a four-pronged approach to healing and wellness.
Okay.
And the first three, most places are doing, which is diet, exercise, and nutrition, exercise, and supplementation.
Okay.
Those three are critical. And I think our generation has kind of boomeranged back from have it all in the 80s, right? I don't know if your mom and dad were giving you the stuff that I ate as a kid, but Kool-Aid and Hostess potato chips or whatever, right?
We had all the things.
So Diet, exercise, and supplementation are the first three, but where he's really leading nationwide, there's nobody doing this, is therapeutics.
Okay.
So what I mean by that is,
yeah, tell me more.
yeah, so PMF, for example, is a type of bed that when you lie on, it's transmitting certain frequencies. There's something called harmonics.
Yeah, I've heard.
Harmonics are extremely healing. And this actually goes back all the way into traditional Eastern science. And, like in my faith, the idea of cosmic vibration, well, that can actually lend into 21st century machines. So the harmonics machine, if you hold a light bulb and the harmonics machine is here and you're not even connected to it, the light bulb will turn on in your hand because the frequency is transmitting through you. Infrared sauna.
Well, obviously, there's a huge rise in
What's the one where it's like upside down suspension, like all that kind of stuff? Colorectal, coffee enema, like all that kind of stuff, right? But
So you're getting into like heat. Okay.
So I'm actually.
What's the title?
I think I'm the head of sales.
What?
Yeah. So we haven't figured it all quite out yet, but it's an amazing team. So basically,
are you guys hiring?
Well, basically, there's the whole. And by the way, there are some very, very famous celebrities and influencers that are looking at coming on board. I can't spill the tea on that yet.
Okay. Well,
but
I want to know more. Seriously, off
my
the
gosh,
record. I need to know. Like, I'm curious to know. I'd love to
Like I think I've got a call tomorrow at 1 talking about like the ribbon cutting with the city is probably going to be July, and we are doing the whole goal with Heal House is. It has nothing to do with financial, right? Financial is just a byproduct of providing a service. But imagine if people are now looking at their body and saying, okay, how do I get to 100 healthy? Right? Like there's all this interest in blue zones and, Japan or Scandinavia and what people are doing in these areas. What are we doing wrong in North America?
Yeah.
Right? And there is something that we're doing wrong. Right? So for my personal journey, like I'm very excited. And then for the house, I asked the visionary officer, I'm like, so what's your goal? He's like, a house in every city, right? He's like, why can't we have a heal house in every city? And by the way, this is really interesting. He's like, we've gotten a bunch of offers. He's like, I don't want to take anything until proof of concept and, we're at capacity on this house. I think the house is going to get capacity like 150 people. But the whole goal is like, Trish, there's so much stuff. So like,
I need to know, like, actually, I'm very,
So do you know where the prefrontal cortex is in your brain? It's here, right? That's the third eye chakra in like traditional, Ayurvedic medicine, right? The whole idea of, fixing that with therapeutics and with harmonics and with machines is huge. The AI diagnostics on your blood, and by the way, not taking your blood in a sterile, hospital but taking your blood in a rested position. The whole idea of like, people used to sit down and say grace and eat food. So when you eat, that whole idea of box breathing, which is inhale, hold, exhale, hold, and pausing your body so that your actual digestive system can receive the nutrition. We need to get back to these things, but we need to get back to these things with the benefit of technology. Right?
We have access to it.
It's all there, right? I went to, like Tony Robbins has a place called Fountain Life in the States, and it's a similar idea, right? I don't know enough about their business, but the whole idea is, let's find ways to take actualized people who are at risk of chronic illness by the time they're 50 and solving that problem for them. Right, so that's super exciting.
And it's exciting because the world we live in, it's so like we're going so fast, and it's and like you said, we kind of have to go back to reset, which is so important. And I mean, we see it with our kids, obviously, like.
And go back with the benefits that we have right now, right? Like you and I, we don't sit down every day, but I feel connection, right? Because we're in the DMs or we're talking to each other or we're commenting on each other's posts. That's a beautiful thing, right? But it's a gift and a curse, right? To wake up and check your phone is probably not a healthy thing, but I'm guilty of it, right? And you
I
know,
try not to. Yeah.
but it's a gift and a curse, right? Like the nice thing about it is
The connection.
connection,
Yeah.
right?
I'm glad you said that.
But I'll tell you, we both have tween daughters, and they're growing up in a very interesting time,
Yeah.
right? Like there's a lot of pressure right now
Yeah.
on these kids to, step into like an online kind of, I don't know, just prototype.
I think, though, I mean, we've talked about this before, and Maya is, into her, is it kickboxing?
Yeah, yeah.
And, Harper really into soccer, and they're really active. So I think, it's helping them in
Yeah.
that sense because they're growing up in this kind of environment. But also, you mentioned with how you're eating and the products that you're using in your home, like that's also different than probably the regular household. Could you speak a little bit on just like the changes you made with your diet,
Oh my
nutrition? Because
gosh.
I know there's a lot, but I mean, like,
Yeah, so
that it's so fascinating because you went from eating and
whatever, yeah.
and drinking, and
Yeah.
now
Yeah, so one of the things that I've realized, and everybody's body is different. So you have to find precision and personalized
yes,
wellness.
I think that's the key, personalized, and that is
Yeah, so one of the things that my naturopath did is she took a look at not allergic reaction, but sensitivity. And I believe it's called IgA and IgG or IgH,
Okay.
something like this, right? And we took 210 foods and we put them through a test to see not if I have an allergic reaction, anaphylactic response, anything like that, but if I'm sensitive. And Trish, the things that I'm sensitive to are staples in a West Indian or Canadian diet. Potatoes, rice, tomatoes, cashews, peanuts,
Really?
dairy, a bunch of things. And of course, nightshades, alcohol. There's lots of things that I've omitted completely. And, Joanne's thought is 95-5, Rav. Like, you're good, or sorry, 80-20. But I just decided to go 95-5. And I feel amazing,
Good.
right? Like I feel good. I have energy. I'm happy. I don't have any cravings, like no sugar. Like I have a sweet tooth, but I don't eat anything like with sugar. Yesterday, I will say the social component of me, like if I go to a party,
Ravi is a very social guy. You are.
You know what?
It's in your blood.
It's in my blood, right? Like I go to a party. I'm ordering bottles, but I'm just and sometimes I'll just play a joke with like the hostess. I'm like, listen, I have a terminal illness, so I can't drink alcohol. They're like, just one. I'm like, no, just pour me like shots of pineapple juice. Right, so I do miss the like social component of it.
You still go out and you still have a good time, and that's the amazing part about you, Rav, is that I still see you, even if you're not drinking and you're not eating all the things, you're still happy, smiling, and dancing and having a great time.
And there's always reasons to smile, right? There's always reasons to smile, and I believe in that, right?
I know you do.
I like, okay, so Silent H, we have the restaurant.
Yes.
And like I can't eat a lot of the stuff there, and it's looks
so good.
amazing.
Shameless plug, but it is amazing.
Right? But it's amazing, right? But I said to chef, I'm like, hey, I can have avocado, I can have cassava, I can have sweet potato, I can have fish, I can have chicken. I'm gonna just hook it up, onion, like there's things I can still eat, right? And I think like the key is looking at both sides and not looking at what you can't do.
Yes.
But looking at what you can.
Yeah.
Right? We have access to so much stuff. And this whole idea of like, Rav, you don't eat flour, you don't eat sugar, you don't eat alcohol, you don't eat potatoes, you don't eat rice, you don't eat tomatoes. Well, if there's 210 things and 30 of them you're not supposed to eat, that means there's still 180 that you can.
Yes.
Right? And for me, like, I think for me to say those things are bad is completely wrong. They're bad for me.
Which is the personalized side.
That's the personalized side.
So then can I ask you, and you probably already said it, but tell me how then you would define success in like a couple sentences. Like how do you define success? Because you are a successful guy. I look at you and I say like, Ravi's my friend, he's so successful. But how do you define success?
So there's one of my favorite songs is Happiest Man Alive by Machel Montano. And it says, happiness is the true measure of success. That's like literally the first line. And harmony is a beautiful word in music. And the idea that you have to have this high notes, or even like, when people curate an Instagram, feed, it's the high notes, right?
Yeah.
But I think part of success is understanding that there's something beautiful about every pitch in a song. And
You're so poetic, honestly.
well, if you can accept that sometimes you need to lean into something a little moody, a little sort of sour, right?
Yeah.
Like, if you have a really dry scotch or a dry wine, you're like, oh, it's so bitter. Well, bitterness is technically not, the sweet or the joyful emotion, but yet you're appreciating it.
Yeah.
And I've learned to appreciate both the sweet and the other flavors in that concoction.
Yes, yes. Okay. There are some questions I have to ask you.
Yes.
They're easy, but they're quick.
Yes, let's
I want
go.
to know, how do you spend your day off? Like, what would be your favorite way to spend your day off? Because you work all the time, so I need to know, what are you doing when you're not working?
Bike ride with my kids down by the lake, playing music in my music studio, reading a book.
Yeah?
Yeah.
I don't know.
You know what? Maya loves volleyball. Dylan likes basketball. We're out on the street playing every day.
I love it.
Yeah.
And I asked you already your book or quote, but what's one thing that you do every single day that contributes to your well-being?
Yeah.
One thing that you do every single religiously, like it is a non-negotiable.
I do start my day every day with prayer. Yeah. You know what? I believe that however you connect to whatever you want to call it God, nature, the universe, whatever, I start every day, but with a mindful moment of prayer.
I think that's so important. We do the same both morning and night with the kids. And we found that it helps. We also say grace before we eat with the kids. But when they're eating, I try to get them to be mindful with what they're eating, because otherwise they're just eating.
Like this, right?
Okay. If you could live anywhere in the whole world, where would you be? Outside of Toronto.
I do love Toronto.
I know you do. So do I.
Right? I haven't seen enough of the world, but I do like I love Miami. And I do like the idea of maybe having like a farmhouse in Tuscany.
That's so different, like Miami, a farmhouse in Tuscany. That's like the best of both worlds.
Yeah,
Yeah, I see it. I actually see you in Miami.
Oh my God, I'm going in August.
Oh, really?
Yes.
With the family?
Yeah, so I play music, and my teacher growing up, like I got a scholarship to go train with him. I studied in Miami, studied in Montreal, studied in London, England. He passed around the time I got married, and the year after, and his son, who is like this giant of music, like just gifted. We connected during the pandemic on Zoom, and I'm going to meet him for the first time.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, August 17th.
That's so nice.
Very nice.
I really appreciate our conversation, Ravi. Honestly, I say that from the bottom of my heart. Like, this because I call you and I tell you this.
Yeah.
And I want people to continue to connect with you, because I think you're so special and you have such a great story and you're so inspiring. But where can people find you? How can they learn about the projects you're working on, aka Heal House?
Yeah, so at Ravi Singh Remax, I'm a transparent open book. I'd like to document both for myself and anyone who wants to kind of just eavesdrop on my life. And for a deeper version, it's at Ravi Singh Presents, which is just my quiet, deeper reflections. Like, I saw family this week, and I just want to kind of journal the thoughts that I have as far as that goes. Heal House is easily discoverable online, and and
you have some projects coming up too, right?
Yeah, so we're working on a curated kind of group of interesting people that I want to just share their platform and share their audience, kind of similar to this. And I've got a brunch party that I'm doing with Jordan. I didn't even tell you about that. You're getting an invitation, right?
Is this Sundays?
This is going to be Friday, August 2nd.
Okay.
So I'm telling you from now,
on
please.
A Friday?
Friday.
How's
it's
that
long weekend Friday.
Oh, okay.
Right? So it's 2:00 till after work, right?
Where?
right? And then I've got a concert that I'm doing called Ravi Singh and Friends on September 7th. So just trying to get into like different parts of my, just different goals I have, you know? So yes, you'll be getting invitations.
Well, I appreciate you, Ravi, and thank you so much for coming.
No, thank you. This was amazing. I really am glad we did this.
Thank you.